Mr. Dedad?
Here.
Mr. DePlacido?
Here.
Mr. Olajeri?
Here.
Mr. Schaaf?
Here.
Ms. Shaw? Here. Mr. Wojtek?
Here.
Mr. Zona?
Here.
Mr. Enos? Ms. Huff? Mr. Kruger? Ms. Shea? Ms. Terry? And Ms. Weber.
Next item, all farmers on agenda item. This check. It's funny to call this the agenda. Okay. I find that we have the latest day 22nd. That is do that. My practice St. Joe. We're very
They're all names.
so there, I think with that, just some room, but second, there are any questions, topics?
Mr. Dedad? Mr. DePlacido? Mr. Olajeri? Mr. Schaaf?
Yes.
Ms. Shaw? Mr. Wojtek?
Yes.
Mr. Zona?
Yes.
Thank you. Item 6, final bills. To the actors. So you have 4 bills to expenditure. $4,670. $5,000 saying the average house may cost $7 bill. So it's going to make money 10 cents. Reduce lines, other things we buy. So yeah. Also, there's a $1.57 for coffee stocks. This. Yeah. That's LLC. Actually, this one is for about Japanese. Lunches items, probably $85.50. Yeah. Actually, it's like, okay, well, we got WordBot, which is on the website, and that's market $12.30 monthly. And then it also WGL and this is sort of not on page. This video on May. This is not video for our live stream. And study $25, which is really less than usual because we had for the stock targets. So I move based on copy 3.
I'll second. Second by Todd.
Yep. It was on something. What is the Smosh girl?
Mr. Dedad? Yes. Mr. DePlacido?
Yes.
Mr. Olajeri?
Art. Yes.
Mr. Schaaf?
Yes.
Ms. Shaw? Yes. Mr. Wojtek?
Yes.
Mr. Zona?
Thank you. I've sent the video report since about that. Sure. Just give me enough to get talk through the scan here, the worth of budget. Now this is prior to transferable tax bills. We had could be 4,000 and 86 all minus 15 cents. They need to spend but where the tax was filed. If I was that's it. Let's take with it. Okay, that's it. That's all the thought it would be look without the structure job. There's some music, there's art. Take note. Then the 505 7 we also up to the other side.
Thank you. At our meeting about outreach, the first idea is that we wanted some clarifications, misconceptions straightened out. During this government study process, Woodbridge Township will still be a second-class township. No matter what the government study has recommended, Mill Creek Township will still be a second-class township. In addition to that, the government study is on schedule. From the suggested schedule for the Government Study Commission, we are on the schedule. Next item, we have lit pieces left over from what we disseminated at the polls, and we are asking all commissioners and alternates to stop by either my card or Don's card to pick up some of the bases to use as needed. And as an example, there may be places of business that might be willing to put this on their counter. It was suggested that we might use the Sheets locations. There's 4 of those, just to put it up on their bulletin board. But over the summer, if you have, and we have some on the back table, so all the commissioners and the alternates, if they don't have any of these lit pieces, that they would stop by Don's bar or my bar to pick up 100 or so to disseminate throughout the summer, it would be appreciated. We have update from the IT team, Tim and Doug. Everything is working well on our website. No problems. It is being updated twice monthly after each of our meetings. We had a budget update from Tim and myself. We are within our budget. We're following our schedule. Everything is in line. Our social media spot for July that will be recorded at the end of June. Bill Schaaf is scheduled to do that. And we'll discuss, we can further discuss that. It's Joe Ferrelli's to me.
Okay.
The WICU telecast on the Blue Couch for July is Paul Boycett and myself. We'll do that at the end of June for July, as we have been doing monthly. The next item, we've been discussing our fall outreach. During the summer, not a lot happened, so we had our initial discussions on our fall outreach, which will continue at the subsequent meetings. And that's all we have to report. Thank you.
That's all. Anybody have any questions? Art? Thank Okay. The committee of Homeland Forum will want application of content code. So, yeah, the default partners, you have a
Happy stand up.
all right, good.
Everybody, at the last meeting, the administrative code that the municipality can't have was brought up. And I was asked to clarify a bit as to what that really means. So, the first thing is that when a municipality adopts an optional plan for a government, it's required under state law to create an administrative code. That municipality is required to do that. The term administrative code is often misused to refer to a municipality's complete set of ordinances, which is called the Code of Ordinances. Mill Creek codified its ordinances in this typical manner, 6A. So codification of ordinances makes the municipality's laws much more organized and accessible to users in and outside the government. The table of contents for Mill Creek's current Code of Ordinances doesn't contain the administrative code, just what has appeared. It wouldn't be unless the form of government is voted and no different to change. So, the administrative code then is adopted by ordinance by the governing body. It's intended to be a living document. It can be amended. It emanates either this overall charter or a voter adopted optional life. It primarily lays out governing body procedures and meeting conduct, administrative procedures, and a summary of position description of each of the key employees of the municipality. It can also contain sections on authorities, boards, and commissions, and other areas such as fiscal procedures. So in your code already, there are references and there are explanations about your authorities. I guess remain where it is probably would be to govern the administrative code. That would be the decision of the local government when the electorate adopts a new form of government under the VA optional plan law. The governing body appoints the transition team. The transition team prepares an administrative code. My opinion, without the adopting task, Bill Frank There are very good position descriptions for Mill Creek employee positions that are already in place. The rest of the components can be borrowed or adapted from administrative groups adopted by other communities. I think a lot of my career, I've never done a lot of accounts written for many years, and it's a very awesome document. It wasn't a big document, or it's extensions like the council member and how they I did the so forth. So I just want to give them brief summary to you know, chip.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you, you guys say thanks.
So,
So the, my average,
But
like, both, just give you a little bit of system.
Yes, here.
We get that ice.
sorry, just
But, none of ever if the collector decides to suppose about your recommendation. 100%, what do you think would have to be about in this code?
I think so.
I mean, not, no, you can't reference to it all, but it's not everything, is it?
no, it's like I just said that job descriptions are an important element. You have some great ones, for instance, good job descriptions.
So that give you thought.
But then it would be, it would ordinarily be a summary of that larger job description that a person would work on. That's one of the key elements that just got to be outsized. There are many communities that have conduct of the council, and so procedures and policies are set so that you can borrow from. So you would have to do some scouting like we did. We looked at a few, and I get they that there are. And there are a lot of good elements. There's some that, you know, I'd say that we could do that a little bit better. So that would be something you could have a basis for others to work on without having to create from scratch, in my opinion. And there are other things we can get into more details about the legislative process. Do this for anticipation and look at other people have done. And it's something you can borrow. So there'll be some borrowing, some reinventing, but we're newly invented material that I don't view as onerous task by any means.
So sometimes it's like got taste.
And if you have about a year, the transition committee has about a year to do any research they want to do to try to things for it.
I mean, yeah, 100% why it's much.
What it's
Thank you. So the attitude of change, only the downsize a couple of pre-built job descriptions, but summary of everything for change.
So
The job description, so the job description, and they're working under would stay the same unless the board of supervisors decided to prevent the job descriptions.
that's a daunting task.
On all,
Take a lot of time on it.
you know, it's been done in several months, but you have to have a year, and you know, I don't think there's much time to do a bit more to see that it has to be done before before the election would take place in 2027. Although, to be able to be elected in 5 years, that they're retained. So you have a good amount of time. No, I do not think it's a daunting task like that.
Back.
I think John, Mr. Chair, there's a conversation going on. I'm not sure. Can everybody in the back hear?
Yes, yeah, there's no, the people that are trying to out of it's 5 commissioners without speed. They should be selling it better.
Okay, we're gonna move on. Thanks. The next item on the agenda is to commence review of the draft study of the commission, the report. I think we all received a draft, and I think it's safe to say that there's a lot that needs to go into this. What I wanted to focus on tonight was the table of contents and the different things that we need to be prepared to include in our final report. So part of what we received is a table of contents. I'm going to go through these things one by one, and I'll look at the public partners if you want to interject anything where we stand or if there's anything. And if anybody here, up at the commission here, has any additional items they think might be good to be included in there, please speak up. And also, a number of these things are required to be in this final report. So there's a little bit of requirement from the state government perspective, from the statute perspective, and then what we feel is important to be included in there as well. So we do have, I think, does everybody have it, or if not, I'll read them. Okay, open letter to voters and Board of Supervisors. The summary of our commission's recommendations, which we did that a few meetings ago. Question to be placed on the ballot. That's very in detailed, required language that goes to the electorate. Based on this commission's recommendation, we will have the question on the ballot come November. Yes, Toby.
To help elaborate, I'm looking at section 2925 under this is title 29 of the Municipalities Code generally, and it's called Form of Question on Form of Government. And there are several options, and the recommendation that our study commission here has come forward with is the second one, and it's the question that is to be placed in the final report is verbatim from this section of the Act. The only thing really that you are permitted to insert is the name of your plan, which is the optional form, council manager form. Insert a date and insert the type and name of the municipality. And then, secondly, as with any good referendum question, there is an explanatory statement that is allowed to be put at the bottom of it, and there is clear direction under section 2926 of the same law that says that, I won't read this one verbatim, but the commission frames the question. So we'll help you, that's something we can help you with to try to help explain what that little more complicated looking question, a little longer question, what that really is saying. But then you would, again, put that in your final plan report. And when that's submitted to the Election Bureau, they have the final say on what that interpretative statement says. So you at that point, you're recommending what that interpretative clarification statement is, or elaboration statement, and it's a recommendation. So the Election Bureau could change it if they want.
Very good, very good. Thanks, Toby. Also included, and just understand for the commission and the people in the audience, this is a working document. This is a starting point. These table of contents, these topics that I'm going to point out today, things could be removed, things could be added. This is the starting point. The purpose of the commission under the Home Rule Charter and Optional Plans Law, organization and activities of the commission, summary of the present form of government that we have here in Mill Creek Township, organizational charts should be included, explanation of the council manager plan and the advantages. We'll be working on those over the next couple months. Recommendations for establishing a committee to facilitate transition to the new form of government. I think, Toby, you touched on that earlier when you were talking about the administrative code and I'm skipping that one. The administrative code and things like that. So
correct. Yes.
Okay. Relevant extracts from the Home Rule Charter and Optional Plans Law. Again, a working document. There'll be a lot of research, not research, but a lot of discussion on that.
Those are the footnotes.
Those are the footnotes. Yeah, I was going to say that'll be pretty extensive. And then again, Jim, you'll be on the hot seat for this one. The statement of our expenses need to also be included in there. Now this represents, as I said, a starting point for our table of contents for our final report. It is a pretty extensive task that we are undertaking You know, there was some questions as to whether we started too early into getting into this point of the process. And based on this list of items and probably more to come, I think as Art said earlier, we're kind of right on schedule. I think we have a deadline of August something to have this thing done.
August 14th meeting that you have scheduled.
drop dead date.
Unless you, for some reason, have to go beyond that date, you would have to have a special meeting. I'm recommending the following week so that the township secretary and one member of the commission can visit the election bureau and deliver the document, the final plan.
So our goal is to have it done by our July 22nd meeting. That's what I feel our goal should be.
If possible, but if it's not possible, you do have.
But we have a little bit of a comfort zone.
Yeah,
then.
that's exactly right.
Okay.
Paul,
Yes, I'm sorry.
you omitted
Yes,
one of those points. Survey.
I took that one out for now.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I took that one out.
Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. Yep.
Trying to read his mind.
Does anybody have any questions or thoughts or comments on where we're headed with this, guys, the commission? Okay. Toby, you have a few words?
It is a work in progress, of course, and there's a lot of work that you've asked us to prepare, gathering the information that you've created with your studies and all the things that you've done with interviews and so forth. The next meeting, you'd expect to have some more meat on the bone, as they say.
Very good. Okay. New business. Sorry. New business. To undertake this endeavor with the public partners, I was going to appoint a committee of our commissioners to work with them to at least get the rough draft of this thing going. I will stand on the sidelines as the cleanup hitter if somebody can't make it, but I was looking to our 3 other officers, elected officers, to serve on that committee, and that would be Art, Jim, and John. Are you guys okay with that?
Absolutely.
Motion?
Yeah, can I have a motion to create the report committee of John DePlacido, Jim Dad, and Art Olajeri?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by
I'll make the
Donna,
motion.
second by Bill. Any questions? No? Could we have a roll?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is other business. Looking around the table, or any other business, folks?
At some point in time, I wonder whether our committee should formulate and present some comments of what is being disseminated out in the public. Most recently on one of the local TV shows on Channel 12 and their sister station. One of the supervisors made some statements that were marginally inaccurate. So I put that out as to at some point in time whether we want to create a plan for doing that.
Okay, thanks, Bill. We can discuss that as we go forward, as we get closer to the election time, but we're here to do our jobs, and we can't control what people say. If we get out the proper information, in my opinion, that's what's going to win at the end of the day. We get out what we found, and if we can educate the public and the electorate on what we found and how we think it would better our township. There's always going to be some negative comments, whether it's by elected officials or just some of our neighbors. But we've done a lot of work to get to this point, and I think we ought to just continue on the high road and put out there what we found and what we believe in.
I would just like to thank Bill for that comment, and I think you've been doing a wonderful job at the supervisor meetings doing just that, and I hope you continue to do that.
Thanks, RJ. Thanks. Okay.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Just one thing to add to that. I think Kim Huff is working on a frequently asked question item. that I don't know what the timeline is for getting that up on the website, but I think that's going to be very helpful.
Yeah, good point. Thanks, Kim, for doing that. Let the record show that we. Okay, we're going to get into item number 11, public comment. We have a larger crowd than normal. If we have a lot of speakers, people want to come up, please, we're going to try to keep it. We've been pretty lenient. Try to keep it to that 3-minute time frame. We're not going to hold the stopwatch on anybody. But if there's people that want to speak, we're going to try to at least give everybody a chance before people start falling asleep in here. So we're open for public comment. If anybody wants to address the commission, yes, please. Come on up to the podium. If you want to just come up to the podium, please. Thank you. Okay, yeah. If you could sign the sheet so we have it for the record. Thank you.
My name's Candy Horm, and I want to thank you so much for all of the work that you have been doing. I cannot imagine, how much time you are spending on your own, going through papers, going through audits, and I do appreciate it, and I appreciate you gentlemen also for everything that you have put forth. I do have a question. You said the electorate will put the wording on the referendum. Are you the electorate? Who's the electorate?
Okay, we may address questions after the public comments section.
Make a comment.
Yeah, make a comment. I'm going to record that question. Now, we may want to address that once the public comment's done.
Okay.
And that was, who is the electorate, is what your question is?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Thank
then
you.
I just have one more comment. A friend that I met made a comment, and I told her I'm going to rip you off for this comment. She said, I would rather be slapped in the face with the truth than punched in the gut with a lie. Well, we've been getting a lot of painful truths from your study commission, and I've been getting a lot of gut punches from the supervisors meeting. So I think I might need to get a PFA on everybody. But I want to say, I do appreciate everything that you have done. And especially when there are not audits that are up to date. They still don't have the 24 audit as far as I know, and we're halfway through 25. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
You're appreciated.
We appreciate that. Anyone else? Please.
Hello, I'm Linda Trahosky, and I just want to say, a new form of government, at what cost? For the Mill Creek Township citizens that are either unaware or not as familiar with the Mill Creek Government Study Commission, we are here to provide you with the basic fact that a change to our local form of government is unnecessary. As it stands now, the commission has voted to recommend to Mill Creek voters to adopt the manager-council form of government. This would consist of a full-time manager and 5 part-time supervisors. Our current form of government already allows for the 3 elected supervisors to hire a township manager if they choose to do so. If the manager hired does not meet expectations, we have the option to revert back to our original way of governing. Unfortunately, if a vote passes in November of 2025 to change our form of government, we cannot go back. While the idea of change may sound forward-thinking to some, it's important to ask, who really pays for it? The answer, of course, is us, the taxpayers. Local government change should not be pursued lightly or for political convenience. If there is no clear and measurable benefit to taxpayers in both service quality and cost savings, then the expense simply isn't justified. Before we rush into restructuring, let's ask for a full accounting of the costs. Transparency and accountability start with being honest about the price of change. A new form of government, at what cost?
Thank you. I think I saw a hand up in the back there.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sean Held. I've been a resident in Mill Creek for about 3 to 4 years now. So I'm pretty new on the study, and I think Linda brought up a good point. What is the cost? Such as, how much is the study going to cost? How much is the single person going to get paid compared to the 3 supervisors? And how is this going to affect the future? When I look around this room, I think there's maybe one person my age, maybe younger. So that, to me, that really affects me and those in my generation. I hate to say it, but putting it bluntly, a lot of you aren't going to be around in the next 40 years, you know? No disrespect, and I appreciate you guys, doing doing your unpaid work, if I'm hearing that correctly. A question I did have is, well, first I would like to say the millcreekgovernmentstudy.com looks pretty good. My only issue is that yes, there is truth, but all these pros, there has to be some cons, right? You just can't have all these favorable things. There has to be unbiased opinion on both sides. You can't just have all the good things, none of the negative. So I think it would be fair to the community to understand what the negative impact of the study would be, such as how much would it cost? How much is new? Was it singular supervisor going to get paid, the fire chief? One of the 5 supervisors? I think that's a very important question. And why, well, besides that, why is 5 better than the 3 we already have? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming down.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
My name is Doug Prozan, 3286 Lakefront Drive. 2 weeks ago, I came here for the first time to commend you and to encourage you and offer my support, but after hearing some of the things, it's difficult to support some of the positions you're taking. Now, I've got a whole bunch of things here, but I'm not going to go through them all. But I do object to the fact that when you were elected to this position, nowhere did it say you should be doing stuff, paying taxpayers' dollars to be publishing things like this, yard signs, the like. It's not to be politicized. It's pure propaganda, and you know it. The main question I really have, and I asked this last 2 weeks ago, nobody gives me an answer, so I'm going to ask you. Under the present form of the second-class township code, the supervisors can have a business manager. Under the recommendation that they're going to have, there can also be a business manager with supervisors. What is the advantage to that form over what we have now when we don't have to spend any money, we don't have to do any reorganization? The supervisors can simply hire a manager. If it doesn't work out, no harm done, we go back to the 3 supervisors. If it works out fine, then we continue with the business manager. Have you made a recommendation to them? No, I'm asking you. Excuse me.
No, this isn't question and answer. We'll address some of the questions.
Well, that's a problem of transparency. How can people, if we ask questions and we can't get answers, how do you suggest that you're being transparent and objective? That's neither one of those things. Now, I'm asking the consultant. I'm not asking you.
I think you need to explain to them again what we're doing.
Yeah, I took that question down. Yeah, we'll address some of these questions after the public comments, and if you want to stick around, we'll probably get to that one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does that mean that there will be an answer to my question?
Thank you.
Of course
course there will be. What did I just say?
No, you didn't. I don't want to be argumentative, but you didn't answer my question.
Do we have anybody else that wants to address the commission?
Sorry, I'm writing slow. Okay.
May I borrow a pencil or a pen? I don't know if there wasn't one here, if he took it.
Mr. Prozan, can we have our pen back, please?
I probably don't need to fill this out. Cheryl probably knows me by now.
Yeah. We want to save every penny.
I've stated in the past, just as a reminder, and I know this is a product that you guys are working on and selling, but you keep acting like it's a done deal. Voters out there, you can vote no. Just a reminder, they can do all this hard work and all this other stuff, and the voters can still tell you no. Just a reminder. I know you're selling the product or your hard work, and that's good. A couple meetings ago, I asked, and I congratulated you on making a decision. I also asked, and I haven't seen or heard, I'm a pros and con person. I like to know the facts left and right, up and down, side, how you came to this decision. I understand you made a decision, good. Still haven't seen how and why this is the best choice for Mill Creek. Just reminding, because if you're not clear on that, all it's going to do is alienate everyone, and they're going to vote against you. And the way it stands, it's not looking good. It also looks like you guys have an axe to grind against things. And it's the perception is reality. Unfortunately, reality is not always perception.
Thank you, Dennis. Do we have anybody else?
You know, 2 weeks ago, you made a decision. 2 weeks before that, you wanted it at that table. You were a month early. You said you were early tonight. People may think you were early, but you were a month back asking for you to come up, all your little committees to come up with a recommendation. Do you think you rushed into this? Do you think you were prepared then? You know, maybe that's a question you ought to answer to that. I really didn't come up for questions, but I mean, Mr. D-Dad, he come up with, it's a wash as far as money. Where's the numbers? Numbers. Are we going to see the numbers? Right? Let's not forget that a manager does not have to live here. He's appointed by the council. I'm gonna drive this home every time I get to talk. He's beholden to the council to have his job. If you don't like him, he's locked in for 4 years. You're gonna have to buy him out. If you want to get rid of him as a council. And don't forget, we'll have so many illustrious members of council, you know, PhDs and MBAs and, you know, no peons on it. No union people, except for one guy wanted it, which is kind of strikes me funny as this man thinks, there's a man on your commission that thinks that's all right to characterize everybody on council. So, you know, I look at you people and, you know, there was a couple people I thought I could really take to heart and think they were going to do the right thing. And to me, the right thing was against this. And ever since Mr. Prozan come on and brought up that manager, you know, I did a lot of research, but I didn't really research that into it. And Mr. Schaaf, I watch, is that the one? I'm pronouncing it right? Yeah. Shaw. She's Shaw. Yeah. I watched that. I watched Channel 12 too. I didn't see a whole lot wrong with all that. I mean, that's just expressing an opinion just like you people do. I thought it was pretty good. I watched this man over here do a 40-minute presentation on his life and his resume. And I remember that quite well too. So, that sticks in my head. And next of all these people should know Public Partners, AOM, 6 out of the 7 were all managers. So why doesn't Milkirk ask the question, why? Why do you hire, why did you hire the one firm? And I heard there was only one bid. No? Okay. But why did you pick this firm when 6 out of 7 of the people that are working at this firm were all managers at one time? So I think this has been a little short-sighted. It's been a little too fast. I think the money may be a wash, but I don't believe it, not by the numbers I saw. And you can add it up any way you want. I don't think our present supervisors are doing that bad of a job than the ones before it. In fact, you have a supervisor on your alternates that was a previous supervisor. So if it was so bad then, apparently she wasn't so good then. It's kind of remarkable. I thank you for your time. I do thank you for some of your work. I wish you would have worked a little bit harder.
Thanks for some of your comments, Jerry.
Thank you. Well, I was wondering if you were ever going to come back or just stay on the phone.
I'm here now. Anyone else?
Mr. Prozan, you referred to this handout that was given at the polls, and I want to personally thank all the people that stood out, and it was pretty cold that day, part of the day too, that stood out there to give an update on what the commission has decided and some of the reasons. It was a lot of work to stand at those polls all day and all evening too. And one thing that those of us who worked at the polls said to people, here's an update, and we want to hear from you. We want your opinion. We will be having a series of public meetings. Please come. Please share your opinion with us. And I think that was very worthwhile. One thing that you addressed at the last meeting was your study that you did, Mr. Prozan, when you were a member of the commission. Thank you for your service on that study commission. But one thing that I noticed was you said you interviewed 60 employees, and I can tell you right now you did not. I came to you did. You said you interviewed 60 employees. And I came to those meetings, and I talked to Mr. Milhouse and some of the other people, and I know some of the employees you interviewed, and you did not interview 60 employees. As far as a manager not living in our township, that's very easy to solve. The people who are hiring the manager, and they do this in many places, can require that that manager live in our township. They can also craft a contract that deals with termination of that manager. Again, the rules are set by the people who the electors put in power to hire that manager. And I'm assuming they would be very careful how they did that. I would want a manager to live in our township. I think that would be important. I think probably the people making that decision would too, or we would hope that they would. Again, I want to thank the commission. They have spent hundreds of hours since December. They certainly didn't rush to judgment. And people need to remember too, they're following a timeline prescribed by state law. This report Dennis, I wanted to address that too. You're wanting to know how they arrived at their decision, why they made their decision, and that will be included in that report, and that report will have public hearings that you can come to, and I'm certainly hoping that you'll come to them and share your opinion on that report once it's available.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Kim Huff, and I am just here to talk about our township. I've done a lot of research in the last couple years with when I became a member of the Concerned Citizens of Mill Creek. We are operating our township with 21st century issues with a system that was created in the 1800s. These 7 elected commissioners have done extensive work studying how other second-class townships operate. Out of the top 25 townships in the state of Pennsylvania, second-class townships, 23 have manager councils. 1 has a mayor council. Mill Creek is the only one that still has 3 paid supervisors without a manager. Another study that I found, municipal governments across the United States, 33% have mayor-council form of governments. 59% have council-manager forms of government. And the other smaller ones were commissions and things that they really didn't give the percentage. So with that said, any large business in this country, I worked for the federal government for 38 years. There has to be a segregation of duties for transparency and accountability. We can hire a township manager, is what I keep hearing from people across the township, from supervisors. But my question is, will the township supervisors that are elected, will they then focus on only legislative issues and allow the manager to focus on the executive issues? Because as it is right now, we don't have a break. We don't have transparency. We don't have segregation of duties. We have elected officials making legislative decisions, and then they make executive decisions. A manager-council form of government provides transparency. It provides accountability to every taxpayer in Mill Creek Township. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else out there?
You know, I'm retired and I have a sick wife, and there's a lot of things I'd like to be doing besides this, but when somebody calls you a liar, you have to respond. There were 60 people interviewed. I have every one of their names. Every one of them, we signed a confidentiality agreement, but if you want to sit down with me, I will go over with you, okay? Number 1. Number 2, wherever you are, this form of government that we are operating on is not 200 years old. It was done in the latest version was 1995. So it's not true. Now you're shaking your head. I'm sorry, but you're wrong. Okay? And as far as the number of supervisors, there's over 1,400 second-class townships in second-class code townships in Pennsylvania, or second-class townships in Pennsylvania. One of them that nobody, I would have thought, would have been the first one you'd want to interview. One of them went to the manager council form and then went back because they didn't like it. I would think that would be a really important one to talk to.
Thank you.
Well, you know what? I spent a lot of time doing all this. Why don't you do your own research? I'm
Okay,
not going to
so-
do it for you.
It's public comment.
Yeah, how come,
You got 30 seconds.
Thanks for supporting me. I don't need another 30 seconds. She made a couple of good points. I'm sorry, the last speaker. Just because you pick a manager doesn't mean that they're a good manager. That's why the present form is best, because if we do make a mistake, it's easily remedied. We don't have to go back and reinvent the wheel, which is what you want to do.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the commission? We have time for you, don't worry.
All right. I'm not a public speaker, so this is torture for me, but I felt I had to speak. My name is Sherry Campbell. I live in Mill Creek Township on Hart Road. I'm here to express my concern regarding the proposed changes recommended by the Government Study Commission. First of all, this study came at a significant cost to us taxpayers, $78,000 for the consultant alone. Just to re-examine an issue that's already been settled. A comprehensive study was conducted in the 90s, and its conclusion was clear. Our current form of government is the most cost-effective and practical for our community. Now, once again, we find ourselves revisiting the same issue, driven by the same group of individuals at a high cost. Was this done with the taxpayer's best interest in mind, or was it politically driven? I also want to express concern that the Study Commission's role was to prepare an impartial report, not to campaign or create flyers advocating for one form of government over another. That undermines the integrity of this process. If this government change passes, it'll trigger an expensive, time-consuming overhaul of our government structure, requiring lawyers, legal rewrites, administrative restructuring, and extensive staff involvement. That, again, means more taxpayer dollars and less efficiency, all for a change that really we determined wasn't necessary. I ask you to consider my concerns and the impact that this is going to have on our Mill Creek taxpayer. Is this change necessary? I'm a Mill Creek taxpayer, and I think not. Thank you.
Thank you. I think there was one other person.
I'm Ann Silberthorne, Sierra Drive, Mill Creek. I have a master's degree in English, but I can do a little bit of math. And I hear over and over again, we could hire a township manager if we wanted to right now. But are the 3 supervisors going to step down and only accept $8,700 a year for what they're doing now? So we might hire a manager, but then we're still going to be paying our supervisors $90,000 plus benefits each. 5 supervisors, part-time, make $8,700 each. That's a little bit more than the cost of 1 supervisor currently. The other thing I hear that there's no report. They're preparing a report, and they're not obligated to have the report until something like 2 months before the vote. So they're not asking anyone to vote now. They're saying this is what they came up with, and this is, they're going to have the formal report with all the figures and all the transparency. And as far as the propaganda goes, these are informational pieces, and they're not saying vote for this in November. If they were, that would be wrong. Everybody wants transparency, so they're telling you what they're doing. And the last thing I'm going to say is, WQLN, you have to do better. It is so frustrating. I mainly watch these meetings from home. And I can't tell, Cheryl can tell you how many times I've emailed her in the middle of a meeting and said, I can't hear, there's no sound, there's no picture. You must do better. And you also must do better on YouTube, but with labeling what the meetings are. There'll be a meeting that's for the commissioners, and it'll say it's a supervisor's meeting from a week ago. So we're paying you, and you must do better. Please, I'm not targeting you personally, but please tell your superiors. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else to be heard from the public? Okay, we will close the public comments section. And as I mentioned, during the good of the order, I know I took a few questions down, and hopefully some of the other commissions or maybe the partners did. And I would go through a couple that I have. The first question was, who's the electorate? Now, the electorate is the voters. It would not be us. It would be the voters. That would be when we put the question up to the electorate. That's for the general population that comes to vote. Eligible voters cast their vote one way or the other. Okay. What is the advantage of what is the advantage of the business manager in going to a different style of government? I think we had one speaker talk about that. In my humble opinion, I'm not going to speak for the commission, I'll speak for myself. One of the problems that we do see is the lack of separation of duties. One of the things that we saw when we interviewed these other townships were that you have the township manager carrying out the directions of the of the council. In Mill Creek, they're called supervisors. The part-time supervisors, if this form of government is approved, results in a maximum, I think one of the speakers said 8,700, so 8,300 and change per year. When you take 5 times that, that's about half of what one supervisor makes. So there is some savings in that. The other advantage that I saw, and I'll turn it over to my colleagues if they have comments as well, is that Mill Creek currently spends a ton of money on legal costs, far more than just about everybody else we've seen. I think one had a close call where they had some union negotiations or something that kind of went to arbitration and things, and they were close to us. And I'm not the numbers guy, Jim is, but I want to say that the townships we interviewed were about $250,000 a year. For instance, this year's budget for Mill Creek is $750,000 for legal fees. When you talk about how it's going to be from a cost perspective, those things that we saw handled by managers and their colleagues are being handled by paid solicitors here at our township. That bothered me personally. Somebody asked for pros and cons. We did our best to put pros and cons. There's a lot of talk about these pamphlets that are handed out. I think we were elected to study this, okay? I came in with a totally open mind. Jerry, we talked before this, when the whole process started. My mind couldn't have been any emptier, okay? My hard drive's full now after these last couple of months. But it became so apparent to me that how Mill Creek, and while it might not be 200 years old, they redid it. It was initiated 200 years ago, 1803 or whatever. I think it was something like that. Correct, 1830, whatever it was, almost 200 years. And we've been using this as the only township of the second class in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania with a population of over 25,000. That's glaringly telling me, I mean, the other ones aren't wrong. I mean, maybe some of them are, but they all can't be wrong, okay? And Mill Creek's right. When you look at the things that we've seen through our investigation, it does to scream at you that there's a lot of wasted spending on certain items that probably could be handled internally if you had staff under the direction of a manager at the direction of a part-time council. Why is 5 better than 3? My personal opinion, and I know RJ, I'm sure you're going to have something to say, but my personal opinion is a part-time supervisor doesn't require somebody to quit their job to come and be a supervisor, to help their community out. Right now, our 3 full-time township supervisors, God bless them, they have their hands full what they're doing. I don't have any problems with the folks we have in there. But when you have people that are doing their best, that may not have the background or the training to run a $30 million township, everything becomes kind of gray. And when we looked at these township, and somebody brought up, yeah, you pay a township manager. Yeah, they get paid well, but they're professionals. You pick who you want, and you can say, well, you can't get rid of them. Well, hopefully during the vetting process, you pick somebody you like that's going to do a good job. Having 5 people vote on that person, I think is a great idea. Whenever that trained, educated, background, probably somebody this size, the township of this size, we're not going to hire somebody out of college or out of the union ranks. Hopefully we're going to hire somebody that has years of experience, maybe with smaller townships or townships similar to us. I think the advantages of having that expertise running our township would be tremendous. As I said, I totally respect our supervisors we have. There's been talk about axe to grind, and we had predetermined ideas. I can't speak for anybody but myself. I came in here with an open mind. The first day we had our meeting, I met Jerry, I met the 3 supervisors. I didn't even know them, the people we have. I'm talking for myself. I never met them before. But when I looked at how the township, it opened up my eyes, how the township deals with certain issues, how other townships similar to Mill Creek deal with issues, it was just glaringly obvious that we're falling behind. Somebody said 21st century problems with a 200-year-old system. Whether it's 200-year-olds or not, the system we're using, I think, is selling our employees and businesses short. Or not employees, I'm sorry, our citizens and businesses short. Having an expert that we can examine their qualifications, look at their history, vet them, have them running the operations of our township, I think would do tremendous good for our township. Did we rush into this decision? That's another one I had. You know, we interviewed 7 different townships. We interviewed our internal staff. We interviewed all 3 supervisors. We did talk with a former supervisor. We have a former supervisor on our as an alternate. I thought that, again, my own personal opinion, the information was so clear, and you know, for me it was a no-brainer when we made our recommendations. Is it cost effective? Yeah, that'll have to be seen. When you look at 3 supervisors at 95, not 90, but 95 plus 95, right? Plus benefits. We you know, probably about a 40% of the salaries and benefits. You know, you're talking about $135,000 per person, a little over $400,000 for 3 supervisors. You have $45,000 to $50,000 for 5 part-time supervisors that may. You know, like I said, whenever we looked at it, you know, how it's set up would be up to the council and the hired manager. Do they need additional help? Possibly. I would probably say yes, but there sure is a lot of room in there between legal fees and 3 supervisors versus 1 manager and 5 part-time supervisors. So if I missed any questions, if anybody else on the commission would like to interject their opinions or thoughts, I turn it over.
Hopefully I'll be okay.
Hopefully I got to answer some of the questions that you guys asked.
Hopefully I'll be able to answer some more. Someone was criticizing this lit piece in an apparent move to try to give transparency to what we're doing. We put this out to let people know why we made the decision that we did. Now, this isn't a final report or 25-page documentary, but in a simple 1/2 a lit piece, we tried to explain why we did what we did. We shouldn't be criticized for that. We're trying to communicate to Mill Creek residents and voters what we did and why we did it. Sure, everything costs a little bit of money. I'll try to answer a few additional questions. Someone said, why 5? Why 5 supervisors? Everybody, each township that we interviewed were unanimous in having 5 supervisors. You have your choice of 3, 5, or 7. Why 5? 5 supervisors add checks and balances. 5 supervisors hinders collusion. 5 supervisors makes it harder to bend rules. 5 supervisors makes it harder to make bad decisions. 5 supervisors adds 2 more perspectives, more diversity, more experience, more intelligence, more balance. This next point, once again, every township that we interviewed echoed this statement. 5 supervisors remove the 2 versus 1. It's too easy to chart a bad course. All the other townships felt that 2 versus 1 is not healthy. Are they all wrong and Mill Creek is right? We spent hours studying this. You know, we read and studied and investigated and analyzed and discussed. And in that process, this wasn't our intention, but we uncovered egregious irregularities that the other townships our size didn't have. And Paul alluded to one of them. One of them was legal expenses. But one of the things we realized was that, yes, the leaders are accountable, but it's the weakness in our government that allowed it to happen. In our studies, all the other like-sized townships were using a different form of government. And we had to ask ourselves, you know, are we right? And they're all wrong? Or have they found a more effective way to manage tax dollars? One of the other things we discovered in doing all this work, like-sized townships not using the form of government that Mill Creek Township has been using since 1800, weren't deficit spending. They're actually balancing their budgets without having to tap into reserves. All the other townships had separation of the legislative function and the executive function. They all did. There has to be something to it. In addition to that, our Fortune 500 companies have separation of legislative and executive functions, and Mill Creek does not. The other townships do have checks and balances because of the above, and Mill Creek does not. We had questions of why do we want this change? These are reasons why. Another key point is that the other governments separate politics from administration, and Mill Creek does not. Under the council manager form of government, you have a greater pool of individuals that might be business leaders, entrepreneurs, lawyers, CPAs, managers, and Paul alluded to this. They don't have to give up their full-time jobs to help Mill Creek Township. All these other townships that we looked at had professional managers that had MBAs, MPAs, degrees in finance, and a lot of years of municipal experience. Why did we choose this form of government? I will continue. It eliminates management by committee and the fact that you have 3 bosses. And all of you have jobs or had jobs, and you have to recognize that sometimes that's a difficult work environment when you have 3 bosses and or you have management by committee. And the other really outstanding thing is the ability to attract from a greater pool of individuals, more qualified candidates for not only the board, but also the professional managers. I want to reiterate that we had a schedule and we were criticized for arriving at a decision too quickly. We tried to follow our public partners, and in the month of May, the government study is supposed to deliberate and come to a consensus and formal decision on whether to recommend no change in the current form of government or to recommend one of the optional plans of government to voters to consider approving on November 4th. We're right on schedule, and that's what we have tried to do. There's a limit to how much that we can put on this card, and as time goes on, when we do finalize the report, we'll be able to show you that there will be savings just because of the egregious things that we uncovered. Now's not the time to do it. We need to gather our information, excuse me, and we will publish a final report. One of the things that just happened recently, and maybe some of you had seen it, there was an interview in WICU of the manager of the Erie Golf Course. And in the interview, he gave the history of the Erie Golf Course dating back to 1921 when A.W. Tillinghast designed the course. Mr. Tillinghast was one of the recognized top 10 golf course designers in America. The manager went on to say, what a shame for Mill Creek Township, with a population of 50,000 people, 550,000 people, having control of one of the finest designed courses in America. And we could not operate it successfully and had to sell it. How sad it is for Mill Creek Township. Not surprisingly, one of the townships our size actually operates a golf course, country club, and banquet center, and they do it profitably. Mill Creek Township couldn't do it. Maybe with the right personnel, we could have hung on to this golf course. Thank you. I hope I answered some questions.
Get that man some water. Yeah. I would just like to say just one thing. I work in the second-class townships every single day of my life. That's what I do for a living. So I get to talk to those supervisors, the secretaries, the roadmasters every single day. And some of them, now that I'm working in Erie County this time of year, have realized that I'm on the study commission and asked me about it, and we've talked a little bit, but the one thing that really came just this past week, one of the supervisors in a township here in Erie County said it took him almost 6 years or an entire term to figure out what he was doing. 6 years into it, he was finally starting to gain traction and understand what his role, what his responsibilities were. And that's, to me, one of the glaring reasons that a township manager, a trained, educated, experienced township manager would allow Mill Creek to do. To step in day one and be ready to manage the township's day-to-day operations, while some quality individuals on a 5-member part-time council would lead the vision for our future, would set policy, And together they would work to create a better Mill Creek for all of us. And when we interviewed these townships, the township manager had been in place with a council for 8, 10, 12, I think there was one that was almost like 16 years. They had worked together. They had continued to rehire the township manager because the relationship had worked so positively for the township. And there was, I didn't know anybody except Mr. Wojtek when I joined this. Group. Paul and I worked together when I was vice president of campaign and communications for United Way. He helped us raise a ton of money from his employers at the Erie Waterworks. But I didn't know anybody. I still don't know if anybody's a Republican or a Democrat. I can't even tell you. But my daughter asked me the other day, "Why are you doing this?" And I said, so I can make it better for you. I want this to be a better place for you to grow up in, a better township, more efficient, more effective, more responsive for you. We're not getting paid. We're getting a lot of kickback, but I want to do the right thing. And it's glaring to me what the right thing is. And I think it was to everybody on this on this study group. Then that's why we voted 7-0 to move to a different form of government. It was glaring that a different form of government is more efficient, more effective, more productive, and where we should be. And that was evident as we studied these other groups and you saw them go voluntarily to this form of government, not have to be pushed or pulled. They realized when their township started to grow that the writing was on the wall, that the 3-member roadmaster system of government was not the proper form of government for them. So that's my comment.
I just wanted to share a couple items, and I see there's a hand up in the background, and I'll ask the chairman to see whether we can recognize that later on. But, okay, that's the. Okay, I wanted to share that the budget for this commission was approved by the 3 existing township supervisors. So and I don't think it was an excessive one. We provided them a list of what we thought the expenses would be, and they approved the budget that we're working on. And we are within that budget. Obviously, Jim monitors it very carefully. In addition to that, many of the commission members have invested some of their own dollars and resources into doing things as simple as printing. We traveled to Pittsburgh at our own cost. No one put a bill in for gasoline or even lunch when we went down to the Pittsburgh area. So not that that's a big deal one way or the other, but just to let you know, we're not out there to burn the taxpayers. We haven't had any lavish lunches, cocktail parties, or the like. Little comment to Sean in the background. I may be one of the older members of the commission, in fact, the oldest, I suppose. But at any rate, I hope to be around long enough to see Mill Creek continue in the good direction that they are now and that we are advising that we go forward with. My plan is to live forever, Sean. So far, so good. There you go. The last thing that I want to share with you is a lot of people dodged a lot of really heavy raindrops to come into this meeting tonight. And I think that's a compliment to you that you have care and concern about Mill Creek Township to be here, and I want to thank you for doing it.
I'm sorry. I'd like to highlight again is the separation of the executive and the administrative. And what kind of got me a little bit is the fact that when we vote for supervisors, when we vote every year or every 2 years for supervisor, we vote for a supervisor that we think is going to do a good job as a supervisor. I don't think too many people realize that it's a dual role. I think some do, some don't. You don't really vote for a person that's going to take over a department. You're not looking at specifically qualifications to run the fire department, to run the public works, engineering, anything like that, which is certainly what they do. And I think that's kind of something that needs to be changed, and that kind of got me, again, with the chain of command. And also every year, the 3 supervisors, they change what they oversee. So if you're overhead of the engineering department this year, you may not be next year. What your qualifications are to be that overseer of that department for the amount of money that Mill Creek spends may not be there. So there's another reason, I think, that we need to separate that. We need to have a qualified manager in place to look at that's familiar with these departments or can get it done. You know, the manager can't do everything, but he can get things done in a professional way, and we're not concerned too much with how the politics would work. We're not too concerned really with the formation of the 5-person council members, because we have a consistency in the name of a manager. And that to me is important. That's one of the reasons that I'm definitely for this kind of thing. We need to separate it. We need to keep that. As an employee, I couldn't handle too much, you know, a different employer every year. A different person going to oversee my position, oversee my direction. That changes every year. And that's not fair, in my opinion, to the employees to have that over their head every year. So that's one of the reasons that I like the change that we are going to recommend.
Thank you, everybody. Toby, you have a few comments? Or answer a few questions?
Kind of about cleanup. It's more minor details, but I think it would be helpful. When there was a comment made early on, I believe it was Linda, about that you can, this lasts forever if it gets voted in. Actually, okay, well, it lasts longer than, it lasts longer than every 5 years, a municipality that goes optional plan or home rule can put it up again and say, you know, don't want to continue this, but you do have to, once it's voted in, it has to last for at least 5 years. Managers serve as at-will employees. Most managers today have employment agreements, and there's usually a severance clause in there, or some sort of termination and notice clauses if they want to leave to move to another place. But they are truly at will, and they can be fired at any time, again, with any kind of, and there's actually no notice usually for a firing that takes place. As far as managers living in the community, I was glad that I worked in McCandless, as I mentioned before, for over 35 years, a community in the North Hills of Pittsburgh, and the home rule charter there required me to live there, and I was glad to. I wanted to go to the same grocery stores, and to one of the churches or whatever, and have my kids playing with the t-ball teams and so forth. So it's very desirable, in addition to making it a requirement. A municipality the size of Mill Creek is going to draw attention to the manager community for people that are seasoned and people that are willing to live here. Besides, I did take a great tour with Sebastian, known as Subby, your Public Works Superintendent, with Supervisor Clear in the back seat, and one of my partners of the truck, and saw many very desirable neighborhoods, beautiful neighborhoods in Mill Creek that'd be attractive for anyone that could want to live in. Even Bell Valley. Who said that? Yes. And RJ, I don't want to correct you, but I think you meant to say pushback instead of kickback. It was kind of a synonym. So didn't want anybody to think negatively about you. The electeds currently have 6 years to serve. So if you find out that you elected the wrong person after a month or two, you got them for 6 years. Under the new plan, if the plan goes into effect, council manager plan, it's 4 years. Okay. Transparency, quick comment. Meeting times for public officials elected officials, ordinarily when there's 5 and there's a board with part-time officials, they meet at times that are more convenient to the public, and also, of course, their own work schedule. Usually there's at least one evening meeting a month, maybe more, or late in the day. And when somebody's working here as a supervisor, that the schedule can tend to favor their schedule, their work schedule. Your meetings, for example, one's at 9:30 a.m. and the other one's at 4:30 p.m. So that's more convenient for them than it is for the public. And I have to say that when the study commissioners were telling us about the deliberations that they had, or the thoughts they had, and each of them had prepared remarks. One after another spoke to whoever was here and whoever was watching on TV and us sitting here, that you made remarks about why you think there should be a change and how that change could be affected, and all the things that we have been talking about now for months in a very positive way. And I was struck with the fact that you were also positive about that. It doesn't matter whether I say these nice things or not. I'm saying true things. I was really struck. This is my take of what you did and what you're doing. You're standing up for what you think is right and what you think is the best course of action, and you spoke about it very well for the people that are watching. Thank you.
Thank you, Toby. Anyone else?
I'll just mention those recordings are out there. If anybody wants to go back and listen to them, you'll hear how this commission came up with their decision, one by one. We each explained it, our reasoning. And so it's no surprise that we quickly came up with a decision without any thought or work behind it. We explained everything we learned that brought us to the point of us individually deciding which way to vote. And it just happened that it was unanimous. We all voted for change.
Thanks, Jim. We will conduct future meetings, but we've entered a different phase, talking with our public partners, more of a public response like today. In the past, we haven't answered questions. We won't get into a debate, open debate at these meetings, and I'll let the public have their say, and then we'll attempt to answer those questions. We will have question and answer sessions in the future, forums, public forums, where we'll go not necessarily in this room, but out in the community. Even Bell Valley. Is that Summit? No. Anyway, you had your chance, sir. Thank you very much for coming up and speaking and coming to the meeting today. Thank you. Is there anything else for the good of the order? If not, can we have a motion for adjournment? So moved by Bill, second by Art. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.